morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to another HRO Today Educational Podcast. I'm Elliot Clark. I'm the CEO of HRO Today. We publish HRO Today Magazine, HRO Today EMEA, and HRO Today APAC, as well as produce the HRO Today Forum and events held around the world. And we are the managers of the HRO Today Association. Welcome to what is our first recorded podcast of 2025. As we look back on 2024, we see a number of trends that I think all of us agree we hope do not repeat. We saw sluggish economic growth in the Western economies with limited hiring. For TA executives and HR service and technology providers supporting them, we also saw an unprecedented drop in voluntary turnover with attrition levels in some reports below 4%. This led to a significant reduction in hiring. As we enter 2025, we need to recognize that these down cycles are often followed by upcycles and sometimes crushing demand, as we saw at the end of the pandemic. So the question is, what happens next? What are the TA trends, and what should we be doing right now to prepare for the coming market conditions for talent acquisition? We have the perfect guest to answer these questions. Jake Zabkowicz is the global CEO of Hudson RPO. He has more than a dozen years' experience designing solutions, advising Fortune 1000 HR departments, and managing RPO and TA operations for companies like Cielo and Korn Ferry prior to taking the reins at Hudson RPO. Hudson RPO, as many of you know, is a top-rated provider on the HRO Today Baker's Dozen and has been for many years. They provide RPO, contingent labor, executive search, and consulting solutions to mid-size and enterprise clients around the world. Jake, welcome to the podcast. Is there anything you want to add about Hudson RPO for our audience?
Elliot, thank you so much. And as always, it's great to be on these. Very much appreciate the dialogue and the content that you guys put out. I think it's very valuable, not only to providers, but also to our clients. And so definitely glad to be here today. Just a little bit about Hudson RPO. We are a global talent solutions firm. We have over 1,000 employees across the globe, and we do everything from the full talent end-to-end RPO to staff augmentation, to MSP, and also project-based work. Today, we sit with about 90 different partners across the globe, and we support them from the C-suite all the way down to early careers. So we're very excited about our spectrum and our services that we offer. This last year, when I joined Hudson, we've been known to be very strong in our APAC region and also in continental Europe. But we've made significant investments in our Latin American operations, our Middle East operations, and also introduced a new product offering with executive search. So we're bringing that to our clients and making sure that we can provide that full talent spectrum. 2025, as you mentioned, we're looking forward to a more of a return to normalcy, I would say, coming back from the slowdown of 2023 and 2024. So we're very bullish in what 2025 can bring, and we hope to see that bounce back and that market correction that you initiated a little bit earlier in the conversation today.
Yeah, I think it's coming, but it might not be in the next couple of months. I think we're looking at North America, second half of 2025. Could see some lift, and in Europe, it might take a bit longer. So let's try to pack in as much as we can here at the time that we have allowed. As I said in the intro, 2024, Jake, it was an oddly quiet year.
Right.
So what are you reading in the tea leaves as the coming trends in North America, Europe, the Middle East, you mentioned, Latin America, and Asia? I know you have a strong presence in these regions. What are you hearing, and what are you expecting to hear from your clients?
A great question. The last couple months, I've been speaking with TA leaders and CHROs across the globe, right? And what we're hearing is, and what we're seeing, we're starting to see signs of this, is a return to normalcy. If you think about the last 5 years, we saw the pandemic start in 2020. You saw the great resignation of 21 and 22. And then you saw I'd call it the great hesitation of 23 and 24, where The attrition was so low, hiring volumes were down, and companies were really not understanding what to do, right? 25, we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick. We're starting to see, glimmers of hope and talent and investment and hiring volumes. But the conversations that I'm having with TA leaders are really, the calm before the storm, right? Selecting your right partners to be, to help you get in front of hopefully an incoming fluctuation of volume, going through your TA audits and looking at your processes, looking at where companies can invest in technology to help augment the overall recruitment process. So the conversations that I've had is we don't want to be caught off guard like we were coming into the Great Resignation, right? Because it takes us time to retool, to get that engine up to speed. The conversations we're having now today is let's prepare, right? We're seeing still low attrition, which is great for companies, but managing attrition or having attrition in the single digits, we know over the history, it's not sustainable. So I'm advising our clients, I'm advising our partners, let's make sure that not only do we have a fit for purpose TA process, but we have the right partners, we have the right tools, and more importantly, we have the right skill sets, to take the talent agenda to that next level.
Do you think these companies are actually, I mean, and we can look at, you guys span across the globe. So everyone saw a turn down, whether, from Green Bay to Guangzhou, there was a turn down. Okay. So the question is, are they really sort of grasping that what follows it is going to be, potentially a significant ramp up? And are they engaging you in the conversations? Are you hearing from them that their plans are starting to change? You mentioned there's a bit of a lift. Are there any areas that you feel specifically are hotter than others, where the TA people who are listening to this podcast need to think, okay, we need to make sure we're competitive in those regions because it's already starting to heat up?
Yeah, great question, Elliot. Yeah, I would say a couple pieces here. We're definitely seeing an uptick in a little bit of the US and Latin American markets. The workforce plans that companies have been looking at and doing, we're definitely seeing them, hit their strides with some of the early indications on the workforce plans. Some of the key sectors that we're seeing in increases is definitely on the commercial side and sales reps, commercial support functions. We're seeing that uptick there. Also in engineering, we're seeing some good signs on engineering and manufacturing hiring across the board. Other areas and geographies, the Middle East is coming back on, which is it's exciting. Continental Europe is still, I'd say, still slower than what we were anticipating, but with hopes of picking up in Q3, Q4 this next year. But if I look at some of those key areas and the functional groups, technology is still unfortunately down from what I've seen and what we've seen historically, but with key signs that it could definitely pick up at the end and later half of the year. The conversations again are roughly putting some programs in place with companies and looking at early careers and having that become more of a strategic foothold in the talent acquisition strategy. Boomerang programs, Elliot, have become a very popular conversation lately. For those listeners on the podcast right now, is really looking at those employees that are rehire eligible that have left you in 21 and 22 that you may want to, go back and try to attract again because the grass may not be greener right on the other side after they left your firm. So boomerang programs have been a hot conversation. And then the other piece of the puzzle is still focusing on internal mobility and employee development. Those are continuing conversations that we're having and looking at the right skills to make sure that that they're there for the future.
So for the regions and industries that are going to potentially see increased hiring, as you mentioned, give me some specific examples of what they should be doing while it's quiet, while they have the opportunity. They should be doing talent audits.
Yeah.
Should they be getting consultation on operational, optimization? Should they be picking partners to make sure that when the ramp out happens, they have the flexible infrastructure to sort of meet that need? What do you recommend they spend their time prioritizing right now as part of that planning effort?
Elliot, yes to all of the above, right? And there's not a one size fits all blanket statement for companies and our partners, right? Different companies are in different TA journeys, I would say. But exactly what you said is hitting the nail on the head. if you're looking at your TA processes and auditing your TA process, which you should be doing right now, you need to look at fit for purpose and the skills, and are you really assessing candidates on key critical skills that you need for the future? Do you have a process that drives the time to fill that will meet your business demands? Do you have the agility in your process to pivot and to pick up in certain areas where you might need to be able to drive a faster process across the board? I'm encouraging all of our partners and the individuals that are not our partners yet, clients that are not our partners yet, to really select partners for a future look. And what I mean by that is, are you selecting the right partner for not just the here and the now, not just for 2025, but to 2026 and beyond? And some of the key areas that I'm looking at is, again, from a technology infrastructure, right? Is it a one size fits all, or is it a fit for purpose? Do they bring the best technology across the board? Staffing and resourcing, right? During the pandemic, we saw major attrition in recruitment and TA professionals across the board. Are you picking the right partner that has longevity, that has a career development for your recruiters, for the recruiters supporting you to help drive your talent agenda, further? I do think, and I do know there's still a lot of conversation about artificial intelligence and where to put it in as part of the process and how to drive a technology solution that will, again, give you a fit for purpose TA function as we move forward. So today, right now, while we're still seeing single digit attrition in many different firms, it is time to get organized, right? Time to get your processes in place, your partners in place, both globally and regionally. And that's just not including your TA partners. That's your technology partners. That's your onboarding partners. That's your background check partners, making sure that they have the right infrastructure to support your TA agenda as we move forward. This is the time right now where we can get ahead of the curve, Elliot. And you and I have talked about that in previous conversations. And that's what we're trying to advise our clients on a go-forward basis.
Do the clients understand, their view from the ground versus a consultant that might be, the consultant seeing everything from the viewpoint of the eagle flying over their operation, whereas things look very different from the air than on the ground.
Right.
Do you think that they are actually, sort of recognizing that they need that support because it's quiet? Or are they sort of resistant to spending any money to get ready for the next phase? Because I worry that the people on the phone are hearing, well, there's budget, constraints right now, and those budget constraints are preventing them from getting this kind of advice, guidance, and support in preparation for what is likely coming next.
So, that's another good question, Elliot. And I think that there's a little bit of both. And I think TA is caught in the middle, right? Because if you think of where we sit today, companies now are used to, that single digit attrition, right? So, are they really apt to invest in a TA, further invest in TA infrastructure and look the long term of saying, hey, guess what? We're not going to continue to be in these single digits. We know that the pendulum will swing back. Will it swing back to where it was in 21 and 22? No, it won't. But will it swing back to more of a normalcy of the high single digits, low double digits? Absolutely. Right. And for TA leaders right now, the ones that I speak to, and procurement leaders right now, they're still looking at costs and cost reductions, and they're still holding on. We are focusing and we are talking about, what is that workforce plan? And trying to get in front of that workforce plan so they can really start making some infrastructure changes and team changes. But cost is still a key driver across the board, whether it's existing partners of ours or partners that are in the market for looking for new providers. Cost is still that single key driver. But I'm looking at the overall value, and value being the market insights that your RPO provider should be able to bring, the market insights that we bring to our clients, whether it's supply and demand data, whether it's competitive intel, or whether it's just the breadth of service. We are starting to see more of our clients continue to ask for that total talent and that total talent management, but they're asking for it in pieces and parts of different geographies across the globe. So it is that time to start to pick up and start to think about, not Q1 or Q2 of 2025, but really Q3, Q4, and Q1 of 2026. That's what we're preparing for right now.
That's great. And I think great guidance. We'll have to have you come back and check in as we continue looking forward. We'll see how many of these predictions come true and whether companies really start to get ready. For those of you in the audience, you hear loud and clear. Jake, I think, is absolutely right. the market's turning, this is the time to be planning, and as much as you can with your budget constraints to do the things that like Jake suggested, like, getting that consultation, doing the audits, making sure that you are, hiring, and that your team is fit for purpose. All very important things to consider. Jake, thanks so much for taking part in the podcast.
Thank you, Elliot.
And thank you for the great advice. For our audience listening, I want to thank Hudson RPO, Jake Zabkowicz, Global CEO, for taking part. And we hope you found this valuable, and we hope you have the opportunity to share this with your senior folks and say, hey, give me some budget. I'm going to need it before long, and we don't want to get caught, unprepared. So get ready. I want to thank everyone. Welcome to 2025. This is Elliot Clark. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we hope to see you on our next HR Today Educational Podcast. Thank you.